Hello again, YouTube. My name is Bree, and in today's video, I can't keep a thought in my head for 2 seconds, so it's going to be interesting. But I am doing a gouache painting for the first time in entirely too long. I don't know why it is that every time I complete something in gouache, I'm like, oh, that was fun. I need to do gouache more often. And then I don't touch it again for like 6 months. It's not okay, and I need to do better about it. So feel free to call me out if you haven't seen a gouache painting in a while, because I need to work on that. But anyway, in today's video, I am using my Holbein Gouache, and right now I'm filling up the Stay Wet palette. I don't know why, I just felt like including this, but if you're not familiar with the Stay Wet palette, it's basically a palette that has a sponge under a semi-permeable layer of palette paper. And what it does is it allows the water from the sponge to evaporate into the paper, which keeps your paint workable longer. I mean, gouache, you can easily add water to it and it becomes reworkable again. This just makes it really a lot easier. I don't know why, but for me, there's like a mental barrier where oftentimes this setup process feels like way too much effort, and maybe that's part of why I'm including it. It's easy. You soak the paper for like 10 minutes, you wet the sponge, you pop it in, you put the paint on it. It's super simple. There's no excuse. So, reminder to future self. There we go. Like I rewatch my videos. But yeah, so the painting I'm doing today is a Mermay-inspired piece. Basically, got an email from Graphite Studio advertising a discount on their Mermay reference pack. It doesn't feature like mermaid tails, or I haven't scrolled far enough if there is a mermaid tail later. I don't think so. But what it does have is a bunch of images with the most gorgeous lighting, and there's lots of different lighting setups in this pack. So I've been saying it for a while now, I really want to work on lighting. So it was just like, it came at the right moment and I picked it up. I will include that link below. I think the image I used is actually in the like promotional shots, so you can kind of steal it from there if you're interested. But yeah, just wanted to give this a go, and I decided to work in gouache today. I've been doing a lot of lighting stuff in watercolor, but I need to get back into more opaque media and trying this out. So here we are. Now, I definitely like gouache. If you've worked in gouache before or watched people talk about gouache before, you know, has quite a significant drying shift. And I definitely needed to just put down paint and get started because I knew that would hit me, and right away the yellow is way too yellow, but it's easy enough to work back, so it wasn't a problem. I just kind of wanted to map out color areas to help get started, which I can then go over, so it's not a big deal. It's easy enough to layer, and while it looks like chaos, kind of like a ketchup and mustard vibe going on right now, it works out in the long run, I think. Definitely, I'm really tired, like been super tired lately, so, and I was working on this pretty late. I think this is the longest I had spent on a painting in one go. Normally I do about 45 minutes to an hour, and I desperately need to take a break. I painted for 2 hours straight, which is wild for me. So yeah, I was really into this, but because I was tired and I was working so long, my eyes were drying out and I wasn't seeing it as well, especially at the angle. So some of the proportions definitely got wonky, and that's okay. It happens. This is just the sketchbook page. It's all good, but I do make some little changes after I stop recording to fix a few of them, and then I called it because it is, once again, just the sketchbook page, and I didn't want to become too obsessive with it because that's definitely a possibility too. Partly because it's time for the work week to start, and partly because I wanted to get this video done. So I have to say though, that 2 hour thing, I mean, I was having a great time with this. I expected, having not done gouache recently and having a reference image that I expected to be quite challenging for me, I expected this to be a lot more challenging, just in a frustrating sense. But in fact, I just was having a great time. There's a lot of things I would do differently if I were starting again, but all things considered, I had a great time and I'm super happy with this page. So yeah, it's a win. So I think I went through the initial spiel I wanted to go through. I really just absolutely am in love with this reference pack, and I definitely want to do more paintings from it. And I think some of them I'll try in watercolor, and some of them I'd also like to try in oils, mostly the ones that have really interesting color schemes, because let's make nothing easy on me. But yeah, the really warm lighting with the cool shadows was just gorgeous, and I'm really happy I gave this a go. The brushes I'm using, because they're not more normal brushes for once, I really love these brushes for gouache and oils. I haven't done that many paintings with them. The green handled ones are Trekell. They're just kind of standard wash brushes, flat brushes. But the longer ones are Longcombers from Rosemary Co, and they have uneven edges, so they give you really nice texture. And I think part of it just helps me because since those marks really show, it makes me less focused on blending everything out and being real perfect with things, and just allowing brushstrokes to show in the final piece, which is something I want to get better about. I have a tendency to overwork everything. So I'm trying to learn to love the brush marks. So it's a work in progress. I think it also is really cool for hair and other textural elements. I don't have the best control with them yet, but I'm working on it. And I really do love these. The rigger brush, I think that's what it's called, that I use at the end, I don't touch a round brush until the very end. That's also under the same line. I think it's the Rosemary Co Eclipse line, which is synthetic, so their brushes are still pricey, but I really, really love these brushes. And once again, I need to get back to oils. I really desperately do. Oils, I think gouache for me is already like a mental challenge. I don't know why. Like I said, it's really easy to set that up, and I just don't do it. And like if you leave the brushes and they dry, which I 100% did, I forgot to clean my brushes, and I'm just now realizing that it's fine. It rinses out fine later. With oils, I think because I know that after I finish, there is that much more time that needs to be spent cleaning up. It just makes it so much harder for me to get started. Also because I tend to get really into that process, and I don't want to stop because then I have to clean up, get back to it, clean up again. And I just end up like standing in the same spot for like 4 hours and exhausting myself. So there's a couple mental barriers I need to work through for oil painting. Watercolor is so much different because it just feels so easy. I could just pick it up, pop open a palette, get going. And I don't know, in my head, it's way easier than other paint mediums. And I know everyone has their own takes. I love watercolor. It loves me. I don't know what I'm talking about. So yeah, in my last video, I did talk about being really tired and trying to get some time off of work. That doesn't feel like it's going to happen anytime soon. I honestly thought I wasn't going to make any art this weekend because I've just been so drained, but I got started on this and just, like I said, I couldn't stop painting. So I was having a great time with it. At this time, I'm going to take everything week by week because I don't know what the future holds, and I'm just preparing to be completely worn out at like all times. So we're just feeling things out. For now, I've put my like plan to do a calendar project on hold because it's starting to stress me out since it's now May and I haven't started it yet. And I really thought I'd have a lot of pre-work done between February and March, and I really did not get past the thumbnailing stage. So I will not be making myself a calendar for the upcoming year. I think instead what I should do is I wanted to do bigger paintings, and that was part of the calendar thing. Like it would be 12 larger paintings, so it would be pushing myself in that sense. I think I'm just going to try to do some bigger paintings without trying to theme it because that's just going to be too much for me right now. And yeah, don't need a million challenges. So the short version is work was already really, really, really hectic. And last month was also like our 6-month checklist for home stuff. So a lot of like maintenance and cleaning, and it just like eats up every weekend. And then, yeah, on top of everything else, like my coworker decided she was ready to retire, and there's a lot more to that story, but it puts me in a really awkward position because now I have to train people, but I'm also trying to get all these other things done. So it's just really bad timing all around, and I have a feeling I'm going to be putting in a lot of extra hours. I was even working this weekend, so one day at a time. Eventually I will have people available to back me up and I can take some time off. But in the short term, it is what it is. And that's it. So I think I went through the brushes, the paint, the palette. I forgot to mention the paper. If you've been here before, you've probably seen the sketchbook before. This is one of the sketchbooks my friend Spofgh made for me, and it uses Bockingford tinted watercolor paper. It has some other papers in there too. But yeah, the Bockingford tinted, it's the paper I'm working on today. It's the blue paper. So I actually at one point thought I was going to paint the background really dark. Like the reference photo, it's like a really dark blue. And I just wanted that blue to help with I don't know, it just felt right. It's mermaid theme. It has to have a blue background. But I never got around to painting the background. Honestly, this piece has a very unfinished look to it, but that's okay. I don't mind that look. It's just, I definitely didn't get to the background either. I was running out of steam and time, so it's fine. It's fine. But there's also some black watercolor paper in here, which is really, I need to get back to that because it's calling me, especially if I'm doing more with gouache. I need to try painting on black. I'm kind of afraid to do that as a video because it's also cotton paper, so it absorbs a lot of the water, and then it takes a while to build up layers. I've used it once and it was definitely a bit of a struggle for me, but it was fun, so I should try that again. Also, I'd mentioned in the last video, I think I mentioned it, that I'd done a palette tour, kind of going through all my watercolor palettes, but I did not go through my gouache palettes, so we'll just call this one of them. I only have two types of gouache, and that's the Holbein, and I have I don't even think it's a proper split primer, it's just a subset of Schmincke watercolors, or Schmincke gouache, so I probably won't do a separate video for that anytime soon. That's more packed away in a travel palette, so yeah, I have that too. But I really love the Holbein paint when I'm working with it fresh or in one of these Stay Wet palettes. I don't like the way it dries because a lot more of the paints really crumble. So when I wanted to start traveling with gouache more, this became a problem. It was just constantly falling out of the pans I put it in. So I find the Schmincke tends to stick together a little better. I don't know if that's the Oxgall or something else in the formula. So it's a little better for travel. It still crumbles. Gouache it does its own thing, and that's fine. But yeah, I don't really have a preference otherwise. It's more about the convenience of taking it to go. I'm pretty much run out of things to talk about in regards to the painting and the supplies and the process, because the process is just chaotic and I don't know. So I already kind of started giving a bit of a life update, but that was more because I don't know if I'll have videos regularly going forward. We'll see. I normally post every other week. If I can post every other week, I will continue to do it, but I'm not going to really push myself too much right now because you can only take on so much. And yeah, eventually I do have to start on chores again because there's some things that still aren't completely finished. I was just too tired this weekend and had company, so that's fine. Yeah, so just some other things going on to try to keep me sane. I have definitely gotten more into audiobooks again. I normally listen to audiobooks when I'm painting, but I'm finding myself, I guess with the chores and everything else, all the home stuff, I've been listening to them more, and I gotta credit Dungeon Crawler Carl for keeping me sane during this chaotic period. So I wouldn't really say I'm a fan of like lit RPG or that kind of, I think there's another word for it, like progression fantasy or something, but I don't read a lot of that stuff. I've like read some comics for it, webtoon type stuff, but I'm not explaining this well at all. But Dungeon Crawler Carl is completely over the top absurd. Like, it almost feels like a satire of the genre it exists within. And the voice actor, narrator is so good. It's Jeff Hayes. He is like, I will legitimately forget I'm listening to just one person narrating the story because he is so extremely talented and just brings the characters to life so beautifully. And it's the most absurd story. I'm in love with it, and I don't know if I like would be this into it if it weren't for the fact that everything else was so chaotic that I needed something this silly, stupid, but I'm completely obsessed with it. One of the main characters is a cat named Princess Donut, the Queen Ant Chunk, and I love her so much. So she is my tether to sanity right now as I'm stressing out about everything else. Yeah. And then otherwise, I finally beat Persona 3 Reload. I need to go back for one of the really difficult fights. I don't want to say anything in case anyone's playing it and it is a spoiler, even though technically the game is a million years old at this point. But that's the only thing I didn't really do. I tried that fight. I think normally you had to be on like New Game Plus to be able to do it. I was surprised to see it come up in my first playthrough. I'm losing my voice. But yeah, I got my butt kicked the first 2 times. I was like, I just really want to beat the game. So I went and I beat the game. I have a save for before so I could go back and redo that fight. But I was not feeling up to that level of a challenge this weekend, so I haven't done that yet. And then I figured it was like, I kept seeing the May the 4th stuff for Star Wars and decided to start playing Jedi Survivor. I keep forgetting which is which. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which I got on the summer sale and hadn't played yet. And I was so like, okay, time to finally sit down, relax, play some video games, really get into a new game. And it turned out the install failed because I didn't have enough space. So I cleared off some space, downloaded the game again. It failed again because I thought it only needed like 60 something gigs. That was just the download size, not the install size. So I had to go delete more stuff. And it took 3 hours to download. And then I finally went to play it today, and the audio wasn't working, like the dialogue wouldn't come through. So I then spent like an hour fighting with controls, trying to get the dialogue working. And now I could finally play it. I'm like too tired to play video games. So I only played a little bit. So I'm hoping to play more of that soon too. There's so many video games I want to play. I've really fallen behind on video games in general. I'd like to play the new... Good Lord, it's not even new anymore. I missed Final Fantasy 16. I've not played the Final Fantasy 7. I don't remember what it's called. I played Remake, but the sequel to Remake Part 2, it has its own name. I don't know why, but I haven't played that yet. And then other things just keep coming out, and I'm so behind. I was just told the early access to Hades 2 is out now, and I really want to play that too. So if I disappear for a while, I'm probably just playing video games or sleeping because I need to do all of it. Well, I don't need to play video games. I do need to sleep. I've not been sleeping well. I need to sleep more. Yeah. And then outside audiobooks, I've been reading a lot just in general. I recently read The Spear Cuts Through Water. Oh my God. It's by Simone Jimenez, and it was so good. I really love that book. And then I'm now trying The Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu, I think. And I'm not quite into that one yet, but I don't know if it's just building up and it's slow to start or if it's just not my style. So we'll see. I'm reading a lot of thick books and I don't have time to read thick books, so it's not working out for me. But yeah, that's like everything. So that's a whole life update and a gouache painting, and I am definitely ready to have a light dinner and pass out. I think it's like 7 o'clock, so it's way too early to... I don't care. I'm going to go pass out. So I hope you are all doing well, taking care of yourselves, being way less stressed out than I am. Don't be stressed out. Get sleep, drink your water, eat good meals. This is partly me trying to coach myself because I need to eat better and sleep more and probably drink more water right now as I'm losing my voice. So yeah. I apologize for being completely random lately. I will try to have more focused things to talk about in the future, but until then, yeah, I'll talk to you in a future video, whenever that is. So, yeah, take care. Bye now.